Good morning, one and all. I, Sunita Kotwal, welcome you all to the session 1, day 4 of this 5-day FDP being organized by Civil Engineering Department, GZS CCET, MRSPTU Bathinda, Punjab, under the supervision of Atal Academy. The expert of this session 1 is Dr. Sanjay Sharma, Professor and Head NITR, Chandigarh. First, let me take the privilege to introduce Dr. Sharma with all of you. Dr. Sanjay Sharma, presently working as Professor and Head with Civil Engineering Department, NITR, Chandigarh. He is PhD from Punjab University, Chandigarh. He has teaching experience more than 13 years with NITR, Chandigarh. He has 100 international and national publications in renowned journals. He has also authored 2 books. One of them is Building Defects and Maintenance. He has been the member of State Environment Appraisal Committee of Chandigarh, Punjab, Chairman ICI Chandigarh Center, and Coordinator of Center of Clean Technology and Sustainable Development. I, Sunita Kotwal, Assistant Professor, on behalf of Civil Engineering Department, GZS CCT MRSPTU Bathinda, welcome you, sir, to the session 1 of day 4 of this 5-day FDP. You are most welcome, sir. Now I would like to request Dr. Sharma to please start with his lecture.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for introducing me and for the nice words. I am audible. That is what I wanted to know. Yes, I am audible. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, I am audible.
Yes, sir. Very
So
clear.
thank you very much, and I will start with my presentation, which already I have shared. I think now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Screen is being shared.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then I can start. So I welcome you all for today's session, which I understand the program is on waste management, which is one of the very relevant topic when we talk in today's contest, and because this of greenhouse gases and global warming, etc., the waste management is one of the bigger issues, and in that where the water is also one of the major issues, as we understand that our water resources are basically potable water resources are getting depleted, and availability of the fresh water is becoming day by day very difficult one. And for that point of view, actually, and then we are also say throwing lot of wastewater into our say rivers and drains and maybe the freshwater bodies, and we are polluting them. So we need to take the steps, and where the wastewater management, it is exactly the, I think the topic is not wastewater, basically wastewater treatment, I will say, which I will be focusing on. So I think we all know that, okay, that we never understand about the water till the well is dry. I think if you ask the people who are living in those areas where water availability is very, very less, there you will find that they will tell us that, okay, how important is the water for these people. And if we talk about the availability of the fresh water, so no doubt our earth is covered almost by 97%. Basically, your water is around the earth is water only, but availability of the fresh water is very, very less. I think the total water is 1,400 million cubic meters, and the fresh water is of that is only 42 million cubic meters. But and the thing is that, okay, the same water that existed on Earth billions of years ago still exists today. But I think 2 days or 3 days back also there was news that these glaciers are breaking down, and because of that California fire, and basically temperature, rise in temperature, etc. So, basically that particular balance I am talking about is, so whatever the input is there, that output is basically it is globally in balance. That we have the precipitation, then we get something as a runoff, some parts evaporates, goes to the sea, and you have this precipitation occurring and all that. So all these particular thing, you can say if you total up these things, it will almost constant. But what is happening in between is, okay, you see that it is not this thing, but what is happening in between is uh, this storage is missing. This particular DS value is missing here in this particular equation. So what in that I said that okay, this is balanced, but you will find that is exactly not balancing, but some amount is missing. That amount is basically, this is the DS, the water storage changes. So this is, you can say, the locally the input and output should match, and here this DS should come in the picture. And that is what is happening is precipitation, soil storage, evaporation, runoff, discharge, etc. Sorry. So you can see that just showing in a animated manner, and so water going underground is again sometimes it's available for the consumption, but with increase in population and industrial development, pressure has increased on this DS, and I think most of the locations, in particular in our country, this groundwater storage is also going down. So that is what the aquifer is emptying, and so only R and DS are available for amalgam. With increasing population, so the stored water has already been consumed. So our water resources are under pressure, and of the what we are available, I think the same picture I already talked about. So you see that in 2000 the situation was this: 90% area was having relatively sufficiency, and scarcity was in say area of 4%, and water stressed areas in the whole this thing what was about 6%. But the situation by now has changed. You can say that population increases there, that the water stress area from 6% to has increased to 27%. Water scarcity area has increased to 1%, and water sufficiency area has reduced from 90 to 62%. And so already you can say that this is what is projected in by 2025. So most of the areas are falling under stressed area, and water as a sufficiency areas are very less. And this is that our northern part. You can say here also you don't see anything green, anything blue. Basically, most of the areas are having the under pressure. So water is vanishing from our northern part also of the country. And so in our country also the problem is that okay, we get a good annual rainfall, but the storage capacity of India versus world is very less. India, we can only store very small quantity up to 30 days of rainfall, whereas in developed countries like US and Australia, we can store up to 900 days of the rainfall. So that is what is happening, and you are getting that. Sorry, automatically it is going. So water availability is basically, so that is the reason is okay, we all understand vast development, urbanization, population outburst, elevated living styles, inadequate water supply arrangements, decrease in rainwater fall, and excessive withdrawals of the groundwater. In most of the our cities, we don't get water supply more than 8 hours per day, and many of the cities are getting about 3 hours per day. And that this shortage is there, and the water supply. And I think like this Copenhagen, which was declared as a zero water this thing by March 2020, I think. So many of our cities, bigger cities, Bengaluru, Delhi, Mumbai, and many other, I think Kanpur, etc., they have been listed under the zero water in the coming few years. So this is what the Earth distribution we have already shown earlier also. Uh, so 3% is freshwater is available, though it is a blue planet. And this is the comparison basically 2000 in 1950 and what is happened in by this particular thing. So most of the area, I think, no, very few water stressed areas were there where the water availability was less than 1%, but now you can see those areas have increased beyond sort of area. And compare basically daily you are getting some sort of a reports in our water bodies are getting polluted, and at the same time this is endangering life and so this is particularly in Punjab also. You find that so most of the places are you are getting this sort of a news. Ghaggar is also become a perennial nala basically, you can say, not a this thing. So we have to see that pollution. When we say that, so water pollution is one of the major areas which is which we are concerned about because of the reduced availability of the water. And it is not that okay, pollution was not there in early days or earlier or say centuries back also, because but then we were throwing lesser polluted water into our freshwater bodies. I think it is just like that if you take a glass of water. So if you put small, 1 spoon of say or small quantity of the salt into this, it gets contaminated. But if you keep on adding 1, 2, 3 spoons, so at one time it will become completely polluted. So basically the same thing has happened with our say freshwater bodies also. So we have, first it was contamination and now it is the pollution. And this is what is happened. Like our major water bodies, they are not fit for say even aquatic life also. So we have to see that okay, whatever the signs of water pollution in the river water bodies, so we must take into some actions to control the water pollution. So if we go into the say, okay, the sources of the water pollution, you can say that there are natural sources pollution because of the withering of rock, soil integrity and leachate from the animal excreta, etc. Then agriculture pollution due to utilization of fertilizer, insecticides and pesticides. Then mining problem of the water due to the mining, etc. Municipal pollution of the water due to the sewage. So mostly in our country, 80% or 90% problem is due to municipal pollution of the wastewater throwing into this thing. Industrial pollution of the water is also because of the effluent of the industries being thrown into our water bodies, and sometimes accidental spillage which is happening, you can say some oil spillage or industrial spillage, etc. So these parameters basically water quality impacts. So most of the diseases basically, if you find they are 80% diseases are water related diseases only in this thing, and the impact of the water quality on humans is very drastic. So basically you have that health effects of poor water quality, you get the waterborne diseases, water related diseases, and then usability effect of the water quality is the reduced availability, expensive treatment, economic availability is not there, effects on vulnerable population, so poverty and privacy and dignity of the woman, and this is there. Recently I have seen basically one sort of a system, so they have developed a sort of a simple wheel-based system where I think women can take them and instead of carrying buckets on their heads, etc., so they can use those sort of a wheel-based system for bringing the water from the lake. And then aquatic life is also getting protected. So basically that is what our water problem is fast becoming a hunger problem also. So 1 in 5 do not have access to safe drinking water, and then according to UN, a child dies from a water-related diseases every 15 seconds. So that is what basically we have kept a Millennium Development Goal for to improve our sources of drinking water and sanitation by 2025. So to achieve that goal, we need the treatment. So, and also I think if you go back into history, when I think we were not having a large volumes of polluted water at that time, I think initially we started with dilution, then we started with treatment technologies, and now we are going for prevention techniques in our system, followed by the treatment methodology also. So basically that whatever we are doing, I think we get this outcome. If you put something A, so we got two things, B plus C. So B is a useful product, and C is, you can say, is your this waste product. So that waste is always a problem, has been a problem for the human beings, and but that is what we are trying to control, those terrorists and all that who are killing lesser number of people than if we compare the same which are being killed by our polluted water, by taking the polluted water into this. And that is what it is affecting genetically also. And as civilization is getting affected, and water is again too much and this thing. So water availability, we have to see that one is the judicious and efficient use of water, that is the wasteful water use. So more wastewater production, basically we must think that okay, whatever is it is not a waste, but it is a resource. And so whatever the waste we are generating, that is, you can say that okay, that particular thing is getting circulated. So 80% of the water sources are highly polluted because of the pollution from, as we seen that particular thing. And when we come about, say, composition of the wastewater, like your domestic, so it generally we get the BOD from the range of 200 to 400, COD 300 to 600, coliform pathogens ranging from 5 to 50 billions per liter, and there are sometimes toxic micropollutants which come from your medicines, daily care products, and etc. So even our 1 gram of your fecal can contain about 1,000 parasite eggs, 10,000 parasite cysts, and about more than 10 million bacteria and more than 100 millions of viruses. So that is what the so enemy number 1 is your human fecal, and that is what the you have to. I think I said the sewage is one of the major issues, and we are getting that okay, open defecation, etc. Urban and rural areas is basically, that is the population wise we are still trying to. I think under this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, etc., we are trying to meet that. Okay, the completely removing 100% open defecation, but still the work need to be done in this area. And you go into the site of this thing. This is the urban and rural comparison of this status of sanitation, and I think generally you find that this septic tank availability is very less. Similarly, piped sewer supply is again very less. Open defecation is again very high. So all those things, ventilated system is again not this thing. So most of the, if you compare the sort of this thing to in rural areas and urban areas, the margin is again very much this thing. But compared to like our bigger cities and our smaller towns are not having the this treatment facilities, water treatment facilities. And that is what happened about 4 or 5 years back, even in Shimla. So there, I think you all must have gone through your newspapers and found that that this sewage water got mixed with your this fresh water source, and it caused that outbreak of jaundice in that particular, and lot of lives were lost, and people and about a good number of people in Shimla city, they had the jaundice problem, and very high jaundice also. So that is what we are using, this excessive use of pesticides and fertilizers. I think the problem of Bhatinda region, and particularly where we are calling that cancer belt of Punjab, is one of the major issues. Similarly, in terms of industrial waste also, we are getting some toxicity to our water bodies, and again they are BOD, COD, and they are of a very high level, and different industries are different. This thing, dairy, distillery, fertilizers, refineries, paper, etc. You will find that BOD levels are very, very high, and they are also producing sometimes some other sort of materials into water bodies. petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, and these are again you can see that all the tanneries, the problem of chromium is coming. In case of textile also the problem of chromium is there. So so that is, we have already said that okay, 80% of all diseases are water related. Sewage farming is a great danger. Heavy metals, pesticides entering through food chain, and high chlorination leads to cancer, and loss of GDP is by about 6%, and that is what the economic impact due to poor sanitation is basically on the different sector is very and different thing is very high. You can see that in particular this picture you can see. So if, and this is equivalent to 6.4% of Indian GDP as per the 2006 data, old data. So cancer population, particularly you can see Punjab is again on a very higher side, but in India. And there are ecological hazards which are causing the problems, like your lakes, rivers, groundwater is severely contaminated. Ecological deterioration is taking place, and many industries are directly injecting liquid waste into the groundwater. Now, though there is a good sort of this thing, NGT is acting very harshly on all that on this, but still you find these situations in some of the areas. In India, you can say the wastewater generation from 498 class 1 cities, which is about 1/3 of Fruity, and 410 class 2 towns, 1/4 total. So, is very this thing. So you can say out of this thing, class 1 cities, domestic generation, 35, almost 36,000 million liters per day, and treated is about 12,000, 1/3. Similarly, the class 2 cities, about 2,500, and there you can say the because of septic tank etc. the treatment facility is little bit compared. So industrial also very much less, but again the issue is the major of the STP's plants, they are not properly functioning and efficient. Sometimes water is partially treated, sometimes untreated wastewater enters into the water bodies. So treated but not ecologically correct water is entering into the water bodies. So basically, in terms of wastewater management, we have to basically think in terms of reducing, in terms of restoration, and in terms of regeneration the system. So, so that is what we need to know treatment, but ecologically corrected out. So wastewater management is eco-correction of wastewater, restoration of the wastewater. And this is again the situation where shows that most of our population, for about 50% is using the septic tanks. And if you go into your this septic tank management, there also the problem is because there is not a properly treatment is not there, and not a regular maintenance is there. Even your sludge scump effluent is not properly being manipulated. And then I think there are a lot of treatment technologies are there, conventional and sort of a system, which we will talk a little bit later. So here you can get that various type of aeration processes. You have MBR, MBBR, SBR, USB reactor, etc., which are being installed, but their installation cost is again very high. Operation cost is very high. So and basically this is the do not raise and do not use this. I think reduction of BOD COD is again not very much good and all that also. So we have to also think about, we talk about eco technologies and this thing. So eco technology means we are using some sort of a establishing a food chain, bringing basically correct type of a system into bioremediation, we can say, where I think we are starting to bioremediation. We are applying the green plants, etc., to take care of our wastewater or sewage generated systems. So these are the in situ treatment systems which are easy to operate and does not require major modifications of the drain. So naturally occurring microbial say bacteria are used in the treatment process, or activated or to or they are activated or they to degrade the sewage in flowing condition without diverting the flow, and no additional requirement of land or power is involved in this case. So So this particular technique we should follow basically in most of the towns and small villages also, where we are talking about this thing. And so we should basically basically think of having the proper microbial dosing as per the requirement of the system to take control of your pollutants into these sort of a system. So both anaerobic as well as flocculent bacteria play a very vital role in sewer treatment. And I think even most of the treatment plants are working on this particular system only. So that is what the eco restoration of the system is very, very important. And once we say that we can put some eco plants along the say rivers and floodplains, and so that whenever this any sort of a problem is there, so they can just take control of your this sort of a system into this. So various plants basically which can be grown is the I think we are not going into basically detail of this thing, but I have just listed them. Here is the lemongrass, barley grass. Okay. So with all these type of plants, they have been found that they have got some sort of a antifungal properties, anti-algal properties, and also they absorb some sort of a heavy metals also. So that is a cana grass is the one, so which is good for heavy metals, trace elements, absorption from water and soil. And then you have this the shrubs which we call the khana jaldi, and it has an antibacterial, antifungal effect. And this is the Google. And if it is again an antibacterial, antifungal properties, it survives in water scarcity as well. So its seeds have more antibacterial and antifungal properties. And then there is a mal kangani is the one particular plant which is roots of which plant accumulates the particulates floating into the water around it. This is again Kulthi. It has an anti-sludge property, organic matter decomposition, and promotes the aerobic bacteria. And Marva shrubs, so it also has an antibacterial property. And Coster is the one particular which hinders the hydrogen sulfide gas, promoting bacteria. It reduces the black color of the sewage water as well. So herbs, it has antifungal property and helps to develop the food chain in the water bodies. Then again this Adusa is the one basically which is again having antifungal, antibacterial properties. Then you have the drumsticks. Again, they have again antibacterial, anti-tuberculosis properties. It is 99% of bacteria and act as a coagulating agent also. Similar people, the tree helps in removing fluoride. But this tree also removes the fluoride. You have Imri Poda. So the seeds of tree removes the turbidity of the water. This amlats, very common in our parts of pulp and large legumes have the anti-algae properties. The chanbear is the one seeds having antibacterial properties. So I think along with the drains, if we are putting these seeds into our say drains and all that also, so automatically many of the pollutants present in the water gets reduced. But at the same time, I think we have to see that when we are going forward, so we have to manage our water quality, and water quality has to be managed in terms of your chemical properties, physical properties, biological processes, and hydrological processes like flow, in sort of a this. So all these parameters have to be considered in our water treatment to bring the water of good quality. So basically, that is what we have to address the water quality issues with respect to increase in demand and overdraft of water, water security, then salinity of the groundwater, then your urban point sources and geochemistry of the lithosphere. So basically, if we're going into this system, so we have the point sources and non-point sources, and the point sources are basically we are able to figure it out, but non-point sources are difficult. Basically, from agricultural fields, you are getting the pollution from these non-point sources. So again, the sector-wise also we have to see that okay, there are many industrial sectors and all that, and we have to consider okay, whatever the in the wastewater treatment, we have to see that what are the wastewater contaminants. In this, I think we have to maybe classify them as suspended solids, Then other priority pollutants like your metalloids and metals, benzene compounds and chlorinated compounds, microorganisms which may be pathogenic and non-pathogenic, organics, refractory and biodegradable, nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen in the form of ammonia, nitrates and nitrites. So, so this is what basically you can see that the major contaminants are like your suspended solids. So they lead to the development of sludge deposits and anaerobic conditions when untreated wastewater is discharged into the aquatic environment. Nutrients, your phosphorus, nitrogen, carbon, when discharged into the aquatic environment, these nutrients can lead to growth of undesirable aquatic life. When discharged in the excessive water amounts on land, they can lead to pollution of the groundwater. Priority pollutants like organic and inorganic compounds selected on the basis of their known or suspected carcinogenicity or high acute toxicity. So many of these compounds are found in the wastewater. They mostly come from the industrial listing. Then factory organics, these organics tend to resist conventional methods of wastewater treatment. It shows poor degradation. Typical examples include your phenols and agriculture pesticides. Heavy metals, again coming from industrial activities, they can be mercury, chromium, arsenic, and if heavy metals are, they are most difficult to remove. Dissolved inorganics, they may consist of your calcium, sodium, sulfates, etc. So they have to be removed if the wastewater is to be reused. Then coming to characteristics of our industrial wastewater, I think again they are sometimes it is thrown into your sewage water also. So we have to take. So we have to take that. Okay, mostly it composed of floating matter, settable matter, colloidal matter, and matter present into the solution. So this is different type of solids are there. That suspended solids, non-settable, settable. So they may be volatile, fixed, and all that. So we have to see that the solid is present in the water of a different nature. Then odors are also coming. Temperature from the industrial wastewater is one person. Then color is again one of the issues into our thing. मैं लेक्चर में हूँ 11:30 बजे sorry. So color is again one of the issues, I think, where if it gets into our water, this thing, it is very difficult to remove. Then turbidity is again being added because of the suspended matter being thrown. Then your organic matter, so it is again coming from your some industrial situations only. And then I think when we are talking about the organic content, so biochemical oxygen demand, which is nothing but the determination of BOD, maybe 5 or maybe 3 days, it involves the measurement of oxygen used by microorganisms in the biochemical oxidation of the organic matter. So BOD is a chemical procedure for determining the amount of dissolved oxygen needed by aerobic biological organisms in a body of water to break down organic material present in the given water at a certain temperature over a specific period of time. I think it can be BOD 5 also at 20 degrees centigrade, but it can be BOD 3 also at 27 degrees centigrade. So it is widely used as an indication of the organic quality of the water. The most commonly expressed in milligrams of oxygen consumed per liter of the sample during 5 days. COD is also being used to oxidize the organic matter through a reaction with a mixture of chromium and sulfuric acid at high temperature. So COD of the wastewater is in general higher than that of BOD 5 because more compounds can be chemically oxidized that can be biologically oxidized. So this can be very useful because COD can be determined in 3 hours as compared to BOD for 5 days. Then inorganic matter, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, these heavy metals, and biological characteristics like your pathogens, which are coming from the slaughterhouses, so they and maybe some starch and yeast factories, etc., are throwing their these pollutants into our water bodies. So in order to take care of these pollutants, we have to go for some treatment, wastewater treatment methods, and these treatment methods, I think we may classify them based on physical unit operations. So these physical unit operations, I think we all know there is the screening, mixing, flocculation, sedimentation tanks, flotation, filtration, and gas transfer are the typical unit operations which fall under the category of physical unit operations. Once you come to the chemical unit operations, so these are the treatment methods in which removal or conversion of contaminant is brought about by addition of chemicals or by other chemical reactions. Precipitation, adsorption, and disinfectants are the most common examples used in wastewater treatment. Then biological unit operations, so most of the contaminants are removed. So treatment methods in which the removal of the contaminant is brought about by biological activity, they fall under this biological unit operations. This treatment is used primarily to remove the biodegradable organic substances, maybe colloidal, maybe dissolved, and nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus from the wastewater. Basically, these substances are converted into gases that can escape to atmosphere, then into biological cell tissues that can be removed by settling. So these are our mainly main treatment units. One is the screening. The first unit operation encountered in the unit wastewater treatment plant is screening. A screen is a device which with opening generally of uniform size that is used to retain the coarse solid found in the wastewater. According to method of cleaning, screens can be designated as hand cleaned or mechanical cleaned, and according to size also you can classify them as coarse and fine screens. So coarse screens have opening of 1/4 inch or more, and fine screens have an opening of less than 1/4 inch. And these are the, you can say, the mechanical screeners. I think they are used particularly to remove the floatable matter into the system. Then oil separation is also one of the issues. It is a process in which floatables, namely known as amplified oil, and the organic separates from the wastewater. So this is what the separator is there. So this design of this separator is based on the specific gravity difference between the oil and the wastewater, and between the suspended solids and the wastewater. So in general, this separator can handle very large flow. However, its disadvantage is the long retention time required for efficient oil separation. So basically, you require a very long tank basically in order to have a sort of a this thing. Then corrugated plate interceptors units are there. So they consist of stacks of different plates. Under this, you can see that okay, you are having the plates are placed, parallel plates are placed here like this, and at a 60 degree in a vessel of tank, it has been found that if these plates are tilted at 60 degree, the solids will slide down from the plates and be collected at the bottom. So basically, that is reducing the velocity. So these are usually the more efficient than API separators and primary calorifers as compared to our other system, because more surface area is provided in this case because of providing this corrugated plates in particular system. Then another technique, next technique being used is the flow equalization, because this is used to overcome the operational problems caused by flow variations to improve the performance of the downstream processes, and it also used as an emergency tank to equalize wastewater effluent in case of any process failure in the treatment process. So design must provide for sufficient mixing to prevent solids deposition and concentration variation, and also to provide aeration to prevent water problem. The best location of equalization facility facilitate to be the existing and the proposed treatment plant sites, and in some cases equalization after treatment and before biological treatment may also be appropriate. Then coming to physical treatment methods, sedimentation is the I think we all know it is the separation from water by gravitational settling of the suspended particles that are heavier than water. So sedimentation is used for separation of grip and particulate matter in the primary septic basins, separation of biological flow in the activity sludge or secondary basis, separation of the chemical flow, then the chemical coagulation process is used. So it is also used for solid concentration in sludge thickness. So sedimented basins are constructed in a variety of shapes and sizes. Circular tanks may be there, rectangular tanks may be there. The basin is comprised of 4 zones according to function: inlet zone, settling zone, sludge zone, and outlet zone. Basically, so inlet zone is the region where the incoming suspension is distributed uniformly over the cross section of the tank. Settling zone, the particles settle at the particles settle at the same rate as they would be in a different manner. In the outlet zone, the clarified liquid is collected uniformly over a cross section of the basin, and the solids collect in the sludge zone. So this is what you can say. This is the inlet zone. This is the settling zone. This is the sludge settle here, and this is the outlet zone. Basically, this is the sludge zone. So basically, it same is shown in the circular section here also, and you can see that okay, these are the outlet zones are there. This are on this side also outlet zones are there. This is the settlement zone like this, and this is your sludge zone. So same. This is what rectangular basis and the circular basis. Then flotation is next process is the unit operation which is used to separate solid or liquid particles from a liquid phase. So separation is brought out by introducing fine gas, usually air bubbles, into the liquid phase. The bubble attached to the particulate matter and the buoyant force of the combined particles and gas bubble is great enough to cause the particles to rise to the surface to form a scum blanket. So basically, I think I have seen a device which is developed by the Japanese. So it is so if you introduced into your this sort of a unit in the flotation tank, it will provide a nano bubbles. So these nano bubbles, they are in millions or all that, so they improve the efficiency of that particular system into this thing. So basically, that Japanese, they are using this thing, and I think in one of the exhibitions I came across one of them and found the device because it improves the efficiency of our treatment plants, very make it very high. So this is I think we are using this particular gas bubbles, etc., to remove the to remove this solid and grits, etc. Then basically the visual advantage of flotation over sedimentation, that the very small or light particles that settle slowly can be removed more completely in a shorter time. That is what I said, that okay, if you are using the nano air bubbles, even the efficiency becomes much better. So this is what the air flotation system. So air bubbles are formed by introducing the gas phase directly into the liquid phase through a revolving impeller through the diffuser. So this is really in that Japanese, they have used the diffuser at the outlet, that which basically converting that air into the nano air bubbles, and that when going into your this wastewater, so it improves the efficiency basically in this thing. Then coming to the next is the chemical treatment. So chemical treatment, I think first is basically that neutralization, which is important in case of a water coming from the industries. So basically they have to control the acidic or alkaline components before discharging or before taking it for the treatment. So water for waste which are discharged to receiving water, say pH between 6 to 9 is frequently specified by the regulatory agencies. For waste entering biological treatment process, the pH should be maintained between 6.5 and 9 for optimum growth of microorganisms. So acidic waters are commonly neutralized with waste alkaline streams like lime, dolomite, ammonia, caustic soda, soda ash. Lime is most widely used alkaline material for neutralization, and acid waste because of its low cost. So lime may be slow to react and may form insoluble precipitates. So alkaline waste usually require treatment with waste acidic stream, either sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid. We may reduce talk about oxidation and reduction. So oxidants are used in wastewater treatment as a first step in the removal of heavy metals to oxidize organics, or as a first step in a treatment process to oxidize odoriferous compounds such as hydrogen sulfides, or to oxidize inorganics such as cyanide, and for disinfection. So common oxidant agents used in the wastewater treatment maybe are oxygen, chlorine, sodium hypochlorite, calcium hypochlorite, potassium permanganate, and hydrogen peroxide. So chemical solution involves the addition of chemicals to alter the physical state of the dissolved and suspended solids and facilitate their removal by sedimentation. So basically this ionization occurs, I think. So first when you put, like if you are putting common case of aluminum sulfate, so where I think alum and sulfate, they come into the positive and negative charge particles. So these particles, they get attached to opposite charges and settle, becomes heavier and settle at the bottom. So that is what the coagulation process. So they are the primary function repeater. So they basically they are used to mix the chemicals. So Some most commonly used coagulants are the alum, ferrous, lime, ferric chloride, and ferric sulfate. The flocculation purpose is to form aggregates or form flocks of the very finely divided matter. So this flocculation of wastewater is done by mechanical or a air agitation, etc. So this is what mechanical flocculation is there. Raw water is there. It is you are putting this agitators, this rotating machines. So first is the high speed, then is a low speed, medium speed, and a low speed, and then the water is taken to the sedimentation after the flocks are formed. So from 80 to 90% of the solid suspended matter, 50 to 80% of BOD and 80 to 90% of the bacteria can be removed by chemical precipitation. So in comparison, when plate sedimentation is used, only 50 to 70% of the total suspended matter, 20 to 40% of BOD, and 25 to 75% of bacteria can be removed. So coagulation and flocculation process improves the efficiency process. Then this is again a physiochemical treatment which we call the dissolved air flotation system. Is intimately contacted with an aqueous stream at a high pressure, dissolving the air. That is what I said, that the same diffuser system. So the pressure on the liquid is reduced through a block pressure valve, thereby releasing micro-sized bubble that sweep suspended solids and oil from pollutant stream to the surface of the air flotation unit. Solids having a specific gravity greater than water tend to settle at the bottom and are removed by rotating scraper arm. Attached to the same shaft is a rotating skimmer blade that removes the floating matter, and clean water passes underneath a skirt and then must have the vessel through a launder which is located to the peripheral region. So this is what basically this DAF system is there. So you have this chemical tank, you have sort of this thing, and you include sort of a so this is the physical treatment, this is the chemical treatment, and so without recycling you can improve this. Then coming to biological treatment units, I think you know basically they are the aerobic processment and there is the anaerobic treatment. Under aerobic biological treatment, activated sludge process is a very common sort of a technique being used in for the secondary treatment, and this particular system, in this system we are using a tank for wastewater aeration followed by settler and a solid recycle system. The wastewater flows through under constant aeration in the presence of activated sludge and exists at the end of the tank after 4 to 8 hours of residence time. The oxygen concentration in the reactor should be 0.5 to 2 mg per liter throughout, whereas values over 2 mg per liter are considered lost energy. So this is what your primary calorifiers. This is that aeration tank is there. This is the secondary calorifiers. Partially the sludge is recycled, and here the effluent is taken. This is the sludge, and primary sludge and activated sludge, it is taken to the final treatment system. Then you have this SBR reactor sequential batch reactor system. So here the unit process involved in the SBR and conventional activated storage process system are identical. Aeration and sedimentation clarification are carried out in both systems, but in this case the conventional plants, the presence are carried out simultaneously in separate tanks, whereas in SBR operation the processes are carried out sequentially in the same tank. As currently used, all SBR systems have 5 steps: fill, react, settle, draw, and hydrate. So a unique feature of the SBR system is that there is no need for return activities sludge system because both aeration and settling are occurring at the same chamber. So no sludge is lost in the reaction step, and none has to be returned from the calorifier to maintain the sludge content in the aeration chamber. So basically all the systems are taking place in the same tank. Then you have the trickling filter system, which consists of a highly permeable media in which microorganisms are attached and through which wastewater is percolated or trickled. The filter media usually consists of either rock, slag may also be used, or a variety of plastic packing materials. Rock filters bed are usually circular and liquid wastewater is distributed over the top of bed by a rotary distributor, and wastewater is allowed to contact the media. The collected liquid is passed to a settling tank where the solids are separated from the treated wastewater. So, and sometimes it is underground water is also is effluently recycled, and just we have to keep the proper this. So this is the say drinking filter. So basically, limitation of drinking filter include a relatively high incidence of clogging, long rest periods are required, and relatively low loading that could be used. Now we are getting this high rate drinking filter also. So there also you can think of, I think we can think of using also. This is a basically filtering arms. This is the filter media, and here the air is supplied from the bottom, and you are taking out the effluent from the side of your this tank. Then these mostly systems are based on organic aerobic treatment system. The another type of a treatment is the anaerobic biological treatment system. So anaerobic processes, they have been developed for the treatment of sludge and high strength organic load. So disadvantage of anaerobic system is that the slow growth rates require a relatively long retention time in the digester for adequate waste stabilization to occur. On the other hand, most of the organic waste is converted to methane gas, which is combustible and therefore is useful end product. The high temperature is necessary to achieve adequate treatment, as is often listed as a disadvantage of the anaerobic treatment process. However, high temperature are necessary only when sufficiently long meal cell resistance time cannot be obtained at the nominal temperature. So in the anaerobic process, the untreated waste are mixed with recycled sludge and then digested in a reactor, settled off from the entry of the sealed off from the entry of the air. So after digestion, the mixture is separated in a clarifier or vacuum flotation unit. The supernatant is discharged at efficient, usually for further treatment. So settled anaerobic sludge is then recycled to seed the incoming sewage. So this is what basically you are having. This is the digestion tank. This is the setting, and you can take this. So this particular system can be this. So other operations will may be required is the disinfection, where you can use the chemical agent, physical agent, and radiation, etc. for this particular problem. Then nowadays, I think we are clubbing this up the system into primary, secondary, and tertiary treatment. So where we are to use the, I think now we are moving towards the zero discharge system. So there, the whatever the water we are treating, that has to be utilized for other useful purposes. It may be for your irrigation purposes, you are irrigating lands, you are maybe their valleys, or maybe some other gardens in the city, or it can be used in the dual pumping system also. So basically, I think we like in the green building concept, no building is now even this this National Building Code 2016 is very clear that okay, every building is to be provided with a dual plumbing system only. Chandigarh, any lawn having more than any say building having more than 500 square yard yield has to be given a tertiary treated water connection. So you cannot use the directly basically your this tap water, so potable water for your irrigation purposes. And earlier, I think what the treatment plant in Chandigarh is there, it was based on ambivia technology, but the efficiency of the plant was such that the BOD was almost more than 10, between 10 to 20, and that was basically causing some sort of a order when we were using the same water for our irrigation and gardening purposes. And now I think that under Smart City project, those all plants are being upgraded, and the BOD will be one of the specifications is that the BOD will be almost less than between 1 to 5, you can say, not more than 5 ppm for the tertiary treated water. So once that particular thing comes, basically, then I think we can add that more stringently this rule of not using the potable water for drinking purposes will be followed in our this thing. So we have to think of reusing the treated effluent in an efficient way. So, so this tertiary treatment will consist of, again, that basically the tertiary treatment, if we are talking about, the almost that unit operations are very similar to your water treatment only. There you have the first coagulation, sedimentation, filtration, and if required, disinfection also. Or sometimes that if the color is there or some other pollutants there, you may require basically to some if your smell is there or something like a smell of because of some other presence of some chemical sterilizer. So basically you have to take the that unit of pressure is also to be provided. Like iron is, sometimes iron is there, so you have to provide the coke pads. If a PS sometimes instead of using this, so you have to use the lime pad also basically for this purpose. So basically you have to see that depending what is the water quality of your effluent coming from secondary treatment plant, you have to think that okay, what is the other unit, but most of the unit operations are almost similar to the water treatment system. So here so basically you have to take care of organic, inorganic, suspended solids. Granular filter media filters can operate either by gravity or flow filtration. This is a filtration process, and the most common types of filters are 2 and 3 media filters. And there you provide the sand layer, anthracite layer, and sometimes you provide a 3 media system where you have a garment layer below the sand layer, and special filters could be used to different level, different scale. So again, that solids are to be recaptured by bed and eventually have to be removed by scouring and backwashing. Like in filters, I think you understand the working of the rapid sand filter also. So there you have a sort of a system. When the filter media gets clogged, you have to backwash it. Then carbon adsorption is again very useful one to remove the certain types of organic contaminants that are resistant to primary and secondary treatment, where such removal is required. There are some cases where an organic stream contains contaminants that are valuable enough to recover. So with the carbon option. So another use of carbon column is to remove volatile organic compounds from the wastewater. So all VOCs can be absorbed into the activated carbon to a greater or lesser extent. So this is the fixed carbon. I think this is the absorption system. The absorption processes are again very common for removing the this heavy metals also. Then another technique is the membrane suppression technique. So these are the techniques used to remove very fine particles from water to desalinate the water, and to recently members have been developed to remove organics from water also, such as oil and other sort of systems that have clogged and degraded members in the past. So membranes are made of various materials, but all have a consistent pore size that will permit particles or molecules of a given size to pass through the membrane and will prevent molecules or particles of a size larger than the pore size from passing through. So membrane suppressions include ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis process. So this is what ultrafiltration. So here the water you are retained on the site. Okay? This is a very finer particles, secondary particles, and this is the filter media membrane. This is your reverse osmosis. So then the other issue is the sludge treatment and disposal. So sludge is again one of the major problem from the wastewater treatment plant, where to dispose them, how to use them. So the sludge resulting from wastewater treatment operation and processes is usually in the form of liquid or semi-solid liquid that typically contains from 0.25 to 12% solids by weight, so depending on pressure and process use. Sludge is by far the largest in volume, and its processing and disposal is perhaps the most complex problem facing the civil engineers. The problem of dealing with sludge are complex because it is composed largely of substances responsible for the offensive character of untreated wastewater. The portion of sludge produced from biological treatment requiring disposal is composed of the organic matter contained in the wastewater, but in another form which can also decompose and become offensive. And only a small part of sludge is a solid matter. So preliminary operations are used to provide a relatively constant homogeneous feed to sludge processing facilities. So first is the sludge grinding, where we are grinding and cutting into the smaller particles, and then sludge degrading, and in some plants where separate grit removal facilities are not used, either the primary sedimentation tanks or where the grit removal facilities are not adequate. So there, I think we are using this type of a system. Then sludge blending. The sludge is basically from primary, secondary, and advanced processes are blended to produce a uniform mixture to enhance plant operability and performance. So blending tanks are usually equipped in the mechanical operator. So sludge storage is the, again, I think we have to provide a sort of a sludge storage. Again, the sludge storage we have to go into for is a particularly important in providing a uniform feed rate ahead of a following processes like your slime stabilization, heat treatment, mechanical dewetting, drying, and thermal reduction, etc. So if sludge is stored more than 2 to 3 days, it will deteriorate and will be more difficult to dewater. So then another issue is the sludge thickening is the procedure used to increase the solid content of sludge by removing portion of the liquid fraction. This is one done by gravity thickening. It is accomplished in a tank similar in design to the conventional sedimentation tank. Generally, a circular tank is used. The supernatant flow that results is returned to the primary settling tank or to the headworks for the treatment plant. The thickened sludge that collects at the bottom tank is pumped to the digesters or dewatering equipment as required. Then you have to resort to sludge stabilization. So sludge is stabilized to reduce pathogens, to eliminate offensive odors, to inhibit, reduce, or eliminate the potential for putrefaction. And then the technologies which are used may be the lime stabilization, heat treatment, anaerobic digestion, and aerobic digestion. In lime stabilization, what we are doing is that we are putting at lime, and so that its pH is raised more than 12. Then the addition of lime can be done either prior to dewatering, which is the lime pre-treatment, and addition maybe after dewatering, within the post-treatment. So either we can use calcium hydroxide or quicklime may be used for the lime stabilization. I think there is some problem with this presentation. Just a minute. I think wait a little bit. I think there is some problem with this presentation. It has not completely come out. I will share another one. Just wait a minute. And we will copy. Okay. I think it has not been copied properly. Uh, mm, is it now?
Yes, sir, visible.
Is visible? Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is what we have been discussing about your wastewater, and so I think we have discussed this primary treatment, secondary treatment, and this is the activities. This is a various secondary treatment. I think we have discussed this all the processes like you are this thing, and right. And we were talking about this in the secondary treatment. We were talking about the different type of reactors. Then I think we went to this sludge treatment, but then in the various type of reactors which are being used are the SAF reactor, MBBR, and most commonly, and then TFA technology, which is followed by this thing. So this, if you go into sort of your this thing, this is a USAB reactor. Basically, it is the which is called the upflow anaerobic sludge blanket, and it uses an anaerobic process wherein a blanket of granular sludge suspended in the tank gets formed, and wastewater when flows upward through the blanket and is processed by the anaerobic microorganisms. So this is the type of, here the effluent is taken from the bottom. This is a USB technology, very commonly used nowadays in sort of this thing. If you talk about the different type of reactors, and here you have in this thing, water is entered through this, passes through your this granular sludge, and then and then basically goes into your sort of a system. So basically the in this biogas with a high concentration of methane is produced as a byproduct, and this may be captured and can be used as a energy source in this particular. I think details I am just giving a telling you about different reactors, not going into details, showing you this thing, but you can go into this thing. So basically in this particular USB reactor, it needs constant monitoring when put into use to ensure that sludge blanket is maintained and not washed out. And the contents are required to be kept warm, and heat produced from the byproduct that can be reused. So basically, this, whatever the energy we are using, so it can be utilized from the same sort of a system. Then another type of reactor is the smart reactor, where we call it the submerged media anaerobic reactor. It contains an internal media which supports bacterial growth. It uses either rocks or synthetic media as a support material. As waste influents flow up through the system, it is digested by bacteria which clings to the surface media. So here this type of a media is provided, and the flow while going through this media, the bacteria are attached to the surface. So basically, whatever those bacteria, they eat up the say your organic matter, and so heavier becomes settled at the bottom, and effluent is withdrawn from the top side. So this is a system which are able to resist system stress failure due to changing conditions and other factors. So although operating the smart reactors at high temperature will improve efficiency, it is not necessary to preheat the industrial effluent. So basically, this type of a system is provided. The flows enter through this system, and then basically your purification of the system takes place. So the aeration tank we have already discussed earlier also. So not going into this thing, and this is the shown here, basically the tube setter and all that, and this is basically the shaft reactor, which is again I think we were talking about. This is what I think we were some slides I think most probably आगे पीछे होंगी मुझे लग रहा है. So here we are supplying air through this pipe, air supply diffuser at the bottom, and this is the which is placed.
जो ऑफलाइन दे रहे हैं वो भी ज्वाइन करेंगे. ऑनलाइन लिखना है, फाइल नेम आएगा.
And this is it used in the MBBR technology. That this is the type of a floating media which is placed in the water tanks, and their open surface openings, they become the surfaces to absorb the incoming organic matter. So you put basically this top of a plastic type of a thing, this floatable matter into your a floatable media into your this secondary calorific tank, and this basically the openings, they act as a small say sedimentation tank units. So the filter, they get attached, the organic matter get attached to this and becomes heavier and settle down at the bottom. So this is the basically the basic your principle behind working of this type of this thing. Then this is the TFAE technology, trickling filter extended aeration technology. It is a technology that can be described as trickling of the liquid over a media to achieve treatment. The surface area provided by media provides the substrata for the growth of biofilm, and as the effluent passes or trickles over the media, available oxygen is used by bacteria to reduce BOD. So here basically you can say that trickling takes place. This is the filter media is provided at the bottom, so as it trickles over this thing, so your BOD gets reduced. So reactions occurring in the media are exothermic. So the hot air goes up and natural cool air moves from ventilation holes at the bottom. So no power is used for supply of air, as natural convection is used to supply the required oxygen. After posing over the filtration media, the effluent is discharged into the operation tank. This is a small unit that is basically shown here, which is basically the picture taken from this Anandpur Sahib heritage sort of a thing. These are the clarifiers. I think we have already discussed these clarifiers shown over this thing. No need to this thing. This is what the same thing is shown here, skimming and all that together. At the bottom, settlement takes place and all. We have already discussed this thing. This is again aeration tanks. We have discussed. These are tube setters basically for the sort of a media which we have shown in case of a shaft reactors. And tertiary treatment, we have talked about this thing, so let us not go into detail of this thing. This is the pressure sand filters. You can use them for in the tertiary treatment. This is the activated carbon filter we have already discussed. This is the sludge treatment. We have basically seen that how this thing, and then we have also discussed the tertiary treatment, where basically we need for further polishing. Sometimes you have to remove this nitrogen, phosphorus, some metals, etc. And the process used here is again like your I think coagulation, filtration activities, and all that. This is what we discussed. So then you have the option available for reusing the treated wastewater. It can be used for municipal non-potable water. I have given the example of Chandigarh. It can be used for drinking. Many of the places basically without knowing. I think if you know, the astronauts are staying in the this space stations for a year or so. So there they cannot carry that much water. So they are in that space station, that treatment plant which is capable of treating the wastewater to a potable system is basically used for drinking water. It can be used for that purpose also. And recreational many times I think for providing water to the lakes or your fountains or for city beautification water, you know, for fishiculture, if some ponds are to be provided, then this water can be utilized for this purpose. Agriculture, if we are meeting all the requirements, good. Industry also, I think there are many industries which we call the zero discharge industry, no water is being utilized. Then same can be for recreation, like you are swimming, bathing and fishing, etc. and used. So that is what the so many advantages there of having the tertiary treatment of the wastewater. So basically the selection process for any treatment will depend upon the potential use of treated effluent, the nature of the wastewater, the compatibility of various operational processes, the available means to dispose of the ultimate contaminants, and environmental and economic feasibility of the various systems. So if you go for tertiary advanced treatment system, you will find that the secondary treatment removes 85 to 95% of the BOD and suspended solids, it removes 20 to 40% of phosphorus and removes up to 50% of the nitrogen. Whereas tertiary treatment removes over 99% of pollutants, but is at a very high cost. So here the advantage of tertiary treatment are the effluent polishing, nutrient removal, toxin removal, etc., like your metal, etc. Effluent polishing is basically done for removal of BOD and the TSS and whatever the remaining BOD is left out. Your secondary treatment not able to remove. So there you are using this sort of a system. So granular filter media can be utilized, and some sort of micro screening can be utilized. And this is shown that okay, either it can be a single combination, it can be double combination of both the media, can be anthracite, or this can be this is coagulation process we have already discussed here also. So bacteria, virus, protozoa, basically that in that particular this thing we can remove up to bacteria 90%, virus this thing 60%, protozoa up to 90%. Filtration, we have seen that okay, it is again for removal of the flocculated matter, organic matter, microorganism, and the mineral colloidals can be removed by. Then nutrient management is to be done. I think where we are to take care of nitrogen, phosphorus, and because the problem associated with nutrients are they accelerate the eutrophication, they stimulate the growth of algae and rooted plants, and poses a static problem and nuisance, etc. Depleting BOD concentration is there, toxicity to the aquatic life is there, increasing chlorine demand, and then public hazard, etc. So we have to nutrient control is to be directed by physical methods, chemical methods, biological methods, dilution, and plant uptake, which we have already discussed earlier in our part also. So this is the you can restore to nitrification and denitrification process also in the 1 or 2 steps sort of a system. Here also you provide the nitrification tank, and denitrification is taking place and remove sludge, and again the same system as is seen in the aeration tank is to be followed. This is again the 2-step system where I think we are taking this aerobic, and this denitrification tank is provided along with that. So it can be combined one or it can be separate one also. So this is what you can see here, both the things can be provided. So basically we have to convert all the nitrogen to the ammonia and then treat the ammonia. So there you have the 3 points, 3 methods: breakpoint decontamination, ion exchange, and ammonia stripping. So ammonia stripping, what you do is you raise the pH to 12 to 12.5, convert ammonia to ammonia gas to ammonia gas, and in the air stripping you have the cascade wastewater concurrent to the airflow, and ammonia gas escapes to the atmosphere. So basically you have to take care of. Then this is the breakpoint coagulation, can also be used to convert the nitrogen into the ammonia into the, like ammonia you put this chlorine, so it takes it converts it into the nitrogen, nitrates, and nitrates. This is the ion exchange process, basically that yes, the ions are retained because of this thing on the one side, and they are produced on the this thing. Okay, similarly the phosphorus is again removed by this step system or by this sequence batch reactors. You put it can be aerobic, it can be aerobic reaction in this case also. So put this thing, and the phosphorus is basically to be removed. So basically that is what you get the precipitation, coagulation process, and etc. at the bottom. Toxicity removal, as I said, is most difficult one because we have to take care of the thing which is used in the toxicity removal. Main strategy is to either reduce, then eliminate the totally, then treat, then segregate and dispose. So this is what prevention is the best technique. Protection is again to be adopted, and treatment is the next basically this thing. So treatment wise, I think the most common technique is, there are many techniques: biological treatment, oil water separator, air stripping, thermal treatment. That more common technique is the adsorption, which is called the activated carbon. So here the toxicity is, I think, adsorption technique. This is the carbon absorption, which I have already shown that is the carbon column reactor. I think here you can have the single, that is what the same thing is shown here. So it can be single, it can be double sort of a system. On a single column, double column, or maybe continuous flow type of a system can be there. So column reactors can be used, in which you are putting the filter media. It may be activated carbon, it can be any sort of a media into this thing. So, but to adsorption or absorption process, the metals are absorbed and water coming out is free from the metal process. So that is what you have to restore. This is that reverse osmosis technique, RO-tech membrane. We have already discussed this thing also. This is the electrodialysis process, where the electricity is passed and you ion and negative ion and positive ions are basically separated out, and here you that deposition of these metals, or your this through this process takes place at the bottom. So electrodialysis process is again can be utilized to remove this. Then disinfection, commonly use the ozone, your chlorine and ultraviolet UV rays. Sludge we have already discussed, and discharge we have already discussed. And this is one of the case studies basically with reference to your rivers, water bodies. So this was the Thames River, which was almost dead in 1957. Virtually no DO, no this thing, almost. But then now it has been restored, and about 125 species of fishes are there. More than 400 species of invertebrates lives are there. Then you have the various type of birds, sea birds, weather, etc. Find them. In our countries, Sabarmati riverfront is again one good example where the problem has been solved through environment improvement, by providing social infrastructure, and by following the principle of sustainable development. This was the condition basically of that Sabarmati river, and social infrastructure was consisting of the rehabilitation and resettlement of the people, then creation of parks and public spaces, and provision of social culture and amenities around the riverside. So this was the condition at one time, and they started providing, building the structure, removing jhugis, removing other site of encroachments, and then this was the plan was seen, and basically they started working on this plan, and finally this was the Dhobi Ghats, and for Dhobis they provided the affordable houses, and also these ghats, they were used the modern water, say washing colleens were provided to these Dhobis, and then you can see the condition. Earlier on the banks they were using this thing, now they are using this sort of facilities, and this is the final sort of a thing. So various in our also Baba Sinchewala is an example who has basically that removed in Punjab by his own single effort. He has taken the initiatives to remove the sort of system into your water tank. So that is what. So we have to take care of think that okay, we cannot live without water. So that is what thousands have lived without love, but not without water. So we have to. So water is precious, and we have water treatment. It's one of the things which when adopt as an engineer basically, and we have to see that okay, this thing is gets less. So this is regarding your water treatment and wastewater treatment. Now I have come to end of my lecture. Thank you very much for your patient hearing, and now we can over to you, the coordinators.
Thank you very much, sir. That was very much useful lecture, sir. Sir, can we now take the questions from chat box?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The first question is from Mr. Vijay Pangal. as you said, industries are injecting chemical waste to ground surfaces. It will not affect the vegetation of that area, and how can we control it?
Your voice is not clear.
Sir, the question is from Vijaypal Garg that industries are injecting chemical waste to ground surfaces.
Yeah.
It will not affect the vegetation of that area, and how we can control it?
Yes, many of the industries now. I think NGT is taking very strong measures. I think it is to be through monitoring only, and then you can through the water budgeting also. If you look into your this thing, I think if you have to take care of this thing, so water auditing in the industry can very well reveal that how much water they are using, and then I think through that we can. Only thing is that okay, we need to tell the industry that people are aware also. They are not resorting to this sort of a measures. But when basically that sword of your NGT is basically coming on them, there are heavy fines. So I think it is only through monitoring and by educating the people. And if you were, I am taking one session on criminal production techniques tomorrow also. There, I think the main thing is that once we tell the people that you are controlling and say preventing pollution is again economically viable sort of a step. So if you are adopting that, I think people will basically adopt these things, and once they are aware, they will not basically go into it will not restore to such practices. I think.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, you said in your presentation that regarding some plants, they have some role for that is the treatment of water.
Yeah.
So, which are that plant and where that such a type of plant which is available?
I have given the names of the plant basically in my presentation. There are different varieties. I think many of the plants where they are available. They are available basically if you go to any sort of they are common plants which
Sir,
are
everywhere it is available. Everywhere it's a common plant.
yeah. What is your question then?
Yes, that plant is where is available and how it is
Different kinds of
responsible
plants are
for the
available. I think if you are
treatment of water.
yeah. If you are storing to this thing, either they can be planted along your drains. So they have
Hmm.
that capacity to say they act as a say like coagulant also. They act as a antibacterial also, antifungal also, and have the property to absorb some of the metal sometimes also. So basically, yes, you can plant them in that of a system. I think many of the in low cost treatment technologies they have been used at many places. Even
Okay, sir.
we worked one on project with IIT Roorkee in our institute also,
Okay.
and we have utilized our water from our mess basically to we provided the tanks basically 1, 2, 3 tanks system. So once one tank and we provided the plants on those tanks. So this is nothing but sort of a simple tanks where water is flowing from one tank to other. There we have put the tanks, and the water quality has been improved drastically. So I think
So,
you can.
so anywhere we can put that particular plant.
Yes. You can use those plants
Yes,
for
yes, yes. Okay, sir. Thank you,
even,
sir. Thank you so
even
much.
if you are using say your this ponds in the villages are there, so there you can put those plants basically
Okay, sir. Okay, okay,
to take care of this pollution problem.
okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
The next question is from Professor Nitin Das. What is the difference between adsorption and absorption, sir?
Absorption is basically absorption is layer wise and absorption is through the media. So here in the absorption process, so what happens that if you have provided a filter media, the first top layer becomes saturated, then second layer will become saturated, then third layer will be saturated, and then this thing. Whereas in case of absorption, whole media comes into play. And absorption is a technique where I think we are using combination of absorption as well as the absorption. So absorption layer wise, absorption throughout the media.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I'm Ekta Raut from Raisoni College. Sir, actually, we have visited last year the Vasundhara Dairy for the dairy waste treatment, knowing and all. So, sir, over there we have seen that just now you have said in your presentation that after the air processes, some methane gas is also produced because of anaerobic digestion and all.
Yeah.
So, sir, in their plant, that methane gas is wasted. Means they said that this is a like sign of that plant is working or not. सो अगर वो जल रहा है मतलब प्लांट इज वर्किंग. तो सर वही मुझे पूछना था कि मतलब हमने उनसे पूछा कि वाई सर यू आर वेस्टिंग दिस मीथेन गैस. तो उन्होंने उस पर कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं दिया सर. एक्चुअली दे डिडंट से एनीथिंग. सो मतलब सर हाउ दे कैन कंजर्व दैट गैस देन.
Actually,
जो फ्लेम है वो. हाँ. यस
visited
सर.
one of the say university, uh, Cornelia University in Coimbatore, and they are having the wastewater, solid wastewater treatment plant, also wastewater treatment. Also, they were producing this methane gas, and all their kitchen in the in your this hostels, and that energy need basically cooking was being done on this methane gas based only. So I think they can.
Yes.
It's a very easy sort of system, very common also. People
Hmm.
may be unaware this thing, but if they use it, I think their this energy for the kitchen etc. can be met basically for this purpose. This is a good
Yes sir.
gas. I think even for Chandigarh also this our sectors which are very near to your this treatment plant, they have been basically supplied this methane gas for their cooking purposes.
Yes sir. Thank you sir. Thank you.
Sir, next question.
Yes, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, just continuation to that questions. Suppose the methane gas, the gas which is produced from anaerobic digestion, that must contain methane, carbon dioxide, and other gas as well. Then, sir, is there any technique that we can just separate the methane gas from the other gas so that we can use in
Methane gas from the
other gas like yeah.
I don't think that basically the gas which you are getting is mostly this is a methane gas only, because that is the gas being produced. Other gas is I am not aware of sort of a thing that what is the other gas is being produced along with that. Because whenever there is this thing, basically what you are getting is either you are this ultimately this ammonia we are converting into ammonia gas, either to nitrates or nitrites. So
Yes.
other gas, what is the other gas you have seen that?
Basically, sir, actually, methane percentage is around 55 to 65. Means on average we can say 60%, and another is like carbon dioxide, and lot of like ammonia and kind of other gas will also be there, but that is in very less percentage. In book, standard book, it is written like that. But is there any method that we can just separate it out so that we can use that methane?
Actually, I am frankly speaking, I am not aware of your this sort of system, because whenever we are talking about this converting this gas from the your sludge digestion tanks or from this thing, so this particular this is ammonia, and this is basically can be utilized in the as a cooking gas, gas, or maybe for other burning purposes or other sort of a thing in your this thing. So
Yes,
that
yes, sir.
that mixture may not be. I can't. If somebody from the audience can answer this thing, I will be also become this thing. But from my knowledge, it is not. I am not aware of any technique basically to separate that. So there is any need to separate that.
Yes, sir. Another question is like, sir, you have so many plants, but I wanted to know how this the role of plant is differ from the tertiary treatment system that we studied in a wastewater, like wetland treatment system by using constructed or artificial wetland treatment system.
Wetland treatment system and your tertiary treatment system.
Sir, wetland treatment system is come under tertiary treatment system, and this is found to be one of the most effective treatment system. But the problem is like it requires a lot of land area and all.
Yeah,
but still it's a effective way. But how it is differ from the plant you have shown in your presentation, sir? That is my question.
actually, wetland is where your large area is available. I think where
Yes.
the water body is available, you can utilize that particular technique. The only thing is you need to provide some sort of irrigation, etc., so that to keep that system from going to the completely the stagnation stage. And in the tertiary treatment system, this is basically a mechanically designed system where you
Okay.
provide, depending upon the pollutant what you want to remove. So you provide this treatment unit only for that purpose only. Suppose if you have a color coming from your this thing, so there
Yes.
you are utilizing, and then that water is supplied back under say under again your pressure pipes, as a pressure pipe or as a water pressure pipe to your gardens and etc. So there I think utilizing that particular water for that purpose. Wetland system is a natural system, whereas this is a your design system. That may be one difference.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And sir, last question is like, suppose if I have a waste that suppose that is stabilization of waste, means once we said stabilized waste means, sir, what exactly it indicate in a practical point of view? How it is differ from the humus or the sludge that we get after the treatment?
Stabilization is basically that it has almost any sort of ill effects have been completely it cannot be, it will not decompose further. So that is the meaning of stabilization. So that means that if your final product from the waste is stabilized, that means it is not causing any harm to your environment. So no,
Yes,
it is not containing any sort of a contaminants further.
Okay, sir. From activated sludge process, after treating the secondary settling tank, the sludge, whatever we get, can we say that it is a stabilized, sir?
Yes, basically that is what we are taking that sludge to that sludge digestion tank, where I think whatever the under the sludge digestion system, you have to
Yes,
treat it further. So that is what basically the sludge we have shown that in sliders there are 3-4 different techniques of sludge stabilization. So stabilization is basically finally polishing that thing to almost 100% free from contaminants.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. One question from chat box, sir. From Mr. Gurdeep Singh Bagga. Can you please recommend some books from where we can have knowledge about biological and physical properties of plants and trees?
Can we?
Can you please recommend some books from where we can have knowledge about biological and physical properties of plants and trees?
Book, reference book.
Right, sir. Right.
I think there is a one good book from this urban Ministry of Urban Development. They have come up with the water treatment also, manual on water treatment also, manual on sewage treatment also, and manual on your solid waste also, and now recently they have come with the manual on drainage system also for the cities. So I think that manual on sewage system from the Ministry of Ministry of Urban Development is very good document for this purpose. And then there are many other books. Basically, textbooks are there. Some HSPV has written one book basically which provides all these technologies. Many other books are available.
Sir, actually, he has asked about the physical properties of plants and trees. Book regarding the physical
property of
plants and trees, sir.
Plants and
trees. Green vegetation, plants and trees.
Not able to follow the question. Physical properties of.
Question is in the chat box, sir.
By Gurdeep Singh Bagga.
Just see that. Okay.
Upside, sir. Upside. Scroll up, sir. Please scroll up.
Chat box ही खुला हुआ है मेरे पास, I think so.
हाँ जी सर, आप स्क्रॉल करिए अपसाइड.
Hello. The guys unmuted, sir. Please.
And
Sir,
even
actually, I asked you question. You have answered first answer of you told me answer of first question about the manual, sir. Second question was that you were saying that there are some treatment process by which we can use plants for treating the water. So I was asking, can we have to certain? Can you please recommend certain books by which we can have idea about the physical and chemical properties of plants?
let me put this sort of a thing. I think your voice is not clear to me.
I will say it again, sir. No issue.
एक मिनट.
Sir, as you were saying, there are few plants and trees by which can be used to treat water, wastewater or certain something like that. So I wish to know, can you please recommend certain book by which we can have idea about the physical and chemical properties of plants and trees? So should I
am
say a question again?
Yeah, just repeat. Basically, I'm not able to follow your question.
No issue, sir. I
Voice यार. Actually, मुझे आप लोगों की आवाज बहुत वो आ रही है, ठीक नहीं आ रही है, कट कट के आ रही है.
हेलो
I don't
सर,
know.
अब आवाज ऑडिबल है? हेलो
या
सर, आप बेसिकली ऐसी कोई किताब बता सकते हैं जिसको हम लोग पढ़ सकें, जिससे हम आइडिया ले सकें कि कोई प्लांट्स की फिजिकल एंड बायोलॉजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज को जानने के लिए सर?
Sir, look at the chat box, sir. I have pasted the question again, sir. Look at the chat box from Mr. Gurpreet Panga.
जी सर.
Second last question, sir.
some books from where we can have knowledge about biological and physical properties of plants. अच्छा, about plants and trees and plants. Basically, I cannot recommend any book here. I think you have either you can basically nowadays the easy way is to go to Google and you will find search somebody basically something like that. Exactly, I cannot recommend the book here. I have basically.
Mr. Gurpreet Panga, I can recommend that book with the consultation of my brother. He is working in agriculture department. You can please call me after this session. I will recommend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. I'm Nikanda from West Bengal. Sir, I have another question that I didn't understand, sir.
एक काम करो, सबको बोलो जो एक बोल रहा है ना वो माइक ऑफ ऑन करे, बाकी सारे माइक ऑफ कर लो. मैं यहाँ देख रहा हूँ 2-3 माइक ऑफ है, ऑन है. Yes.
Mr. Mitra, sir, you are not perfectly audible. Please.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
do you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir, my question is, sir, what is the purpose of return activated sludge in case of activated sludge system?
Basically, I think what happens in that reaction that these bacteria, the bacteria are surviving on the incoming organic load. So these bacteria, they eat that organic load, grow in size, and become heavier and settle down. So these bacteria are, if they are bigger in size, they are more hungry. So once we basically recirculate them, recycle them, so they are more hungry. Though they eat more, they need more food. So eat more organic load and improve the efficiency of the plant. So this is basically how the system works.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, next question is from chat box, sir. From Mr. Namneet Singh. Reverse osmosis remove important salt from the water also. Is there any other alternative to have a treatment at home at economical cost?
The reverse osmosis is the?
Sir, I can paste the question in chat box right now. Sir.
Ajay, Namneet Singh, one question is why are we using flow equalization? Which may be head of this thing. The missing reverse osmosis remove important salt from the water also. And is there any other alternative to have a treatment at home? Actually, I think this is one big thing that when we are utilizing say any sort of filters in our room, in our this thing. So we first need to know that what type of a pollutant is coming in our, let's say, tap water. If it is turbidity, or if it is you are subtracting some bacteria, or if some say some other type of pollutant. So basically that type of a filter should be installed. There is no need of going for reverse osmosis. So if you are providing, you are having good potable water quality and you are getting good this thing, so there is no need of, I think you may need only sometimes turbidity becomes higher, so you need a filter basically which take care of the turbidities, that candle type of a system which is provided, so it just take care of a turbidity, your turbidity. If you want some, say some contamination or some bacteria or some virus are coming right during transit of weather, then I think some UV based sort of a this filter media should be adopted into the thing. So I that is very one good question basically, because it reverse osmosis removes some say required sort of a minerals also. So I think we should not say blindly go for the reverse osmosis process. Reverse osmosis is basically where TDS is very high. I think there we can go for this TDS, some reverse osmosis based filter system for our houses. Otherwise, there is no need for that.
The next question is the chat box from Nami Singh Adventure.
Why we are using
Flow equalization in treatment plants.
Flow equalization. I think we will explain this thing, because in the sometimes the sewage is low, the sewage quantity is low. Sometimes, so we need to have a constant, like our system has been designed at a particular say flow rate and this thing only. So basically to meet, we don't go in the upper limit also, in the lower limit also. So we need to have a flow equalization tanks.
The next question is from Professor Gitu Yoga. I have pasted in the chat box.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
सर फ्लो इक्वलाइजेशन चैम्बर्स हम इसलिए भी प्रोवाइड सर फ्लो इक्वलाइजेशन चैम्बर हम इसलिए भी प्रोवाइड करते हैं कि हमारे माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म को भी इफेक्ट होता है उससे, मतलब जो बेसिकली बायोलॉजिकल ट्रीटमेंट कर रहे हैं हमारे वेस्ट वाटर प्लांट में.
बेसिकली तो देखो फ्लो रेट के ऊपर है, बाकी एडिड एडवांटेज यू कैन से कि अगर आपका बैक्टीरिया कई बार जैसे उसमें लोड वही है अल्टीमेटली फ्लो इक्वलाइजेशन, जैसे बैक्टीरिया लोड कम हो गया, फ्लो कम है, तो उसमें हम उसको ऐड करने के लिए जो पीछे से आ रहा है सीवेज आ रहा है, वी आर पुटिंग दैट सीवेज इनटू, तो बेसिकली इट इज प्रोवाइडिंग additional bacteria also, organic load also. So that is what the overall purpose is. Flow equalization is to basically for which the plant has been designed, we are maintaining that. If we are say putting lesser water also, higher water also, तो flow उसमें आपका जो है वर्क नहीं करेगा, ठीक है ना. तो it is including the your bacterial load also.
any other question? So one question.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Vikas Gupta.
Sir, I wanted to ask about if there is some professional certification courses in this domain.
Professional certificate.
Yeah.
Actually, we have running one course on operation and maintenance of treatment plants. Last year, we with the help of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So we conducted that program there. I think the basic qualification was graduation only, BTech and all that. People who were interested. So it was about 40 days program where only that skill related to operational maintenance of tube well was given. Operation and maintenance of sewage treatment plant was given.
Okay, my question was my question is related to sir. If suppose I go for professional certificate course, so may I be authorized to work into this domain as an independent consultant?
You can otherwise with your BTech degree also you can work.
Okay, I have BTech in biotechnology, So
Okay.
is BTech and MTech in biotechnology?
Okay.
So is it feasible for me to
I think even otherwise also you can work as a consultant. There is not an issue because the biotechnologies are basically doing this sort of a design. You cannot do the structure design, but you can do the otherwise
process
hydraulic
design?
design. Yeah, you can do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So one question in the chat box by Mr. Gitu Yoka.
Yeah.
For standard drinking water quality, we refer code IS 105002012. Is there any IS code or manual for wastewater?
I think it is IS 3025, where I think the criteria for this thing and for different this thing you are I think throwing the criteria for your say throwing water into a river bodies or for other this thing are different criteria are there. So, but that broadly 3025 is the code in different series is covering this particular aspect.
Okay. Any other questions from participants, please? No question? Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and providing a very informative lecture on the wastewater management. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
And thanks to all the participants for their participation and patience hearing and for very nice interactive session. Now it's time for a tea break and we will again meet at and we will continue on this link. So please don't leave. We will continue in this link for the second session. Please don't leave. We will continue for the second session from the same link. Just after 4 to 5 minutes, we will continue our session 2 around 12.